Out of the gates and ready to go. Welcome into this live edition of Seattle Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Coming up on today's show, we will get to the latest news and rumors involving Jamal Adams and DK Metcalf. We'll also go over our top free agents available that the Seahawks could potentially sign in NFL free agency. Also, we'll look at the top winners and losers after the NFL draft, how the Seahawks roster was affected, and we'll answer your mailbag questions as well. Use the hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat to get on the mailbag portion of today's show. As you guys file in, shout out your area code. Let us know where you're watching from. Remember, the area code's the 3-digit number associated with your cell phone, not your zip code, the 5-digit number. Let us know where you're at. Shout out that area code, and we will try to test ourselves accordingly to see if we can figure out where that is with your area code. Let us know where you're at as we're coming at you from the Chat Sports Studios here in downtown Dallas, Texas, on this lovely Wednesday afternoon. On a little early today, as Smitty is going to join me here in just a bit. He's got some Celtic stuff to take care of tonight, so that's why we're getting the show out of the way. But if you have to get back to work or whatever it may be, the live show, of course, will still remain up, so you can go back and watch it later. And the segments we do in today's show will go up as videos on the channel throughout the week as well. But checking in the chat, I got Sosa in the 910. I got Seth in the 626. Eric, that's a zip code. Let's see, quality over quantity says Lockett is just as consistent as DK. I got Justin in the 405, got Eric in the 520, Helen in the 602, Joseph in the, what did you say? 206, Seattle from Joseph there. Got Helen in the 602, I got Sean in the 910, Gary in the 253, Ryan in the 316. Garrett says, keep DK. We haven't had a physically dominant player since Cam, the GOAT Chancellor. We'll talk more about DK and his situation in a bit. Also, Justin in the 405, got Ramel in the 612, Richard in the 206. Good to see everybody all checking in on today's show. The Seahawks draft is over. How did they do? Grade the Seahawks draft for me, A, B, C, D, or F. We had some videos go out in the channel the last couple days of my draft grade. You had Mel Kiper's draft grade. Now we want to hear from you guys. A, B, C, D, or F. Let us know. We'll shout out everybody that gets their grades in. How do you think John Schneider and company did with this draft, the first of the post-Pete Carroll era in Seattle? A, B, C, D, or F. Let us know. Smitty here with me, hanging out here today on the ones and twos, as a quality over quantity says A minus. Smitty, I've already given out my grade, so I want to hear from you and the rest of the 12s.
Sure.
How do you think John Schneider and company did? What would your grade be for Seattle?
I'm going to give it a – and listen, this thing about draft grades and all that jazz is like we don't really know how these teams, how these players are going to fare. But based on team needs, based on what I've seen about each player – I'm gonna give it a B+ draft. I'm giving it a B+ official stamp, Smitty stamp of approval. I think it's a good draft. I think there were opportunities that there were players that I knew of, which is not very common as we know, that we could have taken in certain spots. Obviously, a guy like Jeremiah Trotter was available there on day 3, and the Seahawks elected not to go with him.
If you missed it Saturday, we might have to play who he played for again because it did not go well for Smith.
It did not go well for me, not at all. But there were opportunities that I thought Seattle should have zigged, and then they zagged. Typical John Schneider on day 3 situations. But hey, he has a proven track record in that area, so I can't put too big of a damper on his actions on day 3. But day 1, day 2, thought he did phenomenal. Thought he could have maybe gotten into the second round. I think it's what have held it back from an A grade for me is if he did get back up into that second round where I thought that there was a ton of talent. But grabbing up Christian Haynes in the 3rd round was my personal favorite pick of the Seahawks draft.
Getting 2 starters for me right away with Byron Murphy and Christian Haynes is why I gave it an A. I know that they reached later on, but Smitty, you're a pretty good student, I imagine.
Sure.
I was of the belief, because some people said, how could you give this an A draft when you gave some of the picks C's? Weighted grade system here.
Agreed.
I cannot factor in a C for one draft pick,
In
the
the fifth
same
round.
as an A for a first-round pick.
Agreed.
I think a weighted scale, because you did so well with the first couple of picks, I give some leniency towards some of the others, and you still took care of every need. Kevin with an A+, Greg says A, Richard says B+, Justin says A-. Let's see, what are some others here? Seth, A-. Garrett says, love the show. Thanks, Garrett. Andrew Fry says A-. Isaac says A. Keep on getting those grades in. Quality over quantity says Tyler and Smitty, too consistent. Love it. Much appreciated,
Love
my guy. Seth says Christian Haynes was a huge steal in the third round. Huge. Joseph said, I actually agree with Smitty, B+ there. Who was your favorite Seahawks draft pick?
I already told you, mine's Christian Haynes. No doubt about it. I do think that Byron Murphy is a good answer here as well, but I just think addressing the interior of that offensive line, somebody who could start for you day one, is something I'm very happy with. And the fact that I heard that he was such a good human being, that he's a leader, a good guy to have in the locker room, is something that I would love on the Seahawks offensive line. I think Christian Haynes can do that for them. Byron Murphy's going to be a game wrecker. We all know that, but that's an easy pick.
Right. I would put this in like two different categories. Who am I most excited about? It'd be Byron Murphy. I think Byron Murphy is going to be your starting interior defensive lineman, anchoring that ship for the next 10-plus years, and I think he's got potential to be an all-pro caliber player. Now, if you were to ask me of best value and all that putting together, it's the Christian Haynes pick of getting him in the third round, getting a starter there. To me, that's good scouting, and that's good work by Schneider to be able to find him when he did in the third round. You know, one of the things, I don't think we've talked about it much on the channel this week, was John Schneider was asked, Smitty, did the Seahawks consider trading up for Christian Haynes? And he kind of gave a non-answer, a little
He
wink,
answered
wink,
without
if you will.
answering.
So they were trying to potentially trade up for Christian Haynes, and it didn't even matter. They got him right there in the third round. So good
Love it.
job by John to get him where they did. Asking you now, who was your favorite draft pick?
I like quality over quantity, saying Satawa, Laumea. I love that pick. I think he's another guy who has the opportunity to be a rotational
Fourth
guard.
round grade, and he ended up in the sixth round. We'll take that.
He could play this year, in my opinion.
Let's see. Checking in. Let's see. Gary says Haynes. Seth says Byron and Leonard. Some of the answers there. See a lot of Byron Murphy, Seth, and Justin, among others there. Got our first Super Chat of the day. Haven't even got to the Super Chat menu yet.
And it's a very special first Super Chat of the day because he's also a first-time Super Chatter. This is coming in from K Saucy for Key C.
Hawks!
C.
Hawks!
C.
Hawks! Let's go! Spam K Saucy. Let's get saucy with K Saucy. Much appreciated. Thanks for that first-time Super Chat, K Saucy. Spam it in the chat. $5 Super Chat. We should have used Jamal Adams for bait and traded the 49ers for Ayuk. And as much as I love Tyler Lockett, Brandon a good replacement. Okay, first off, Jamal Adams is a free agent. He can't trade him. He was caught. And no one was trading for Jamal Adams either. And the 49ers were not going to give the Seahawks Brandon Ayuk. But the other part of that, I love Tyler Lockett. Brandon a good replacement. Brandon Ayuk replacing Tyler Lockett. Yeah, that's a bit of a pipe dream there, but it wasn't realistic. I
love
appreciate
the
the Super
optimism.
Chat, though. Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate the optimism, but that wasn't going to happen. Spam the sauce in the chat. That means we owe the old McDonald's song. Every $5 Super Chat, we'll pay that off. Every $10 Super Chat, we're taking down some shots. We'll go to the Patron zone. Got some Patron on hand. $20 Super Chat, get your name added to the Seahawks State Football Hall of Fame. I forgot to grab the football. It's out on my desk. We'll grab it if we need to. $50 Super Chat, we'll get out the beer bong as well. And then the deal of the day. Been a while since we've done this, folks. I would love the opportunity to do a duck race on today's show, a 50-50 raffle. Here's how it will work. If you Venmo me, at Tyler Jones Live, $10, that gets you one raffle ticket. The more raffle tickets we get, then the more money will be at stake. Let's say that we get $200 in Venmo. That means somebody's going to get the opportunity to take home $100 in a duck race where your duck will represent you, and you'll get the chance to take home some money. So Venmo me at Tyler Jones Live for a raffle ticket so you can get in on the duck race. We'll do it at the end of the show, and let's see how many entries we can get. Free chance for you to win some money on today's show just by Venmoing us $10, and we'll take care of you and do that duck race coming up later on. So stay tuned for that. At Tyler Jones Live is where you can send a Venmo there and get in on the duck race coming up later on. So that is what is on the menu today here on Seahawks Today, here on this Wednesday. Glad that you're spending your Wednesday afternoon here on the channel with us post-draft, with our post-draft reaction show here today. There's the menus you can see for yourself. $ next to the chat box if you want to contribute and support the work that we're doing, bringing you free Seahawks daily coverage here on Seahawks Today. Much appreciated there after the super chat that came in.
Let's
just
pay
a
off
while ago.
that super chat with the Old McDonald song, of course.
Right?
Here we go.
Old MacDonald had a farm, C-I-E-I Hawks. Much appreciated. Thank you, K. Saucy. Much thanks to you for sending in that super chat there. All right, this is kind of a rallying cry here on Seahawks Today. We want you to spam S in the chat. Let's see who's going to be the early favorite to be today's MVP. I want to see as many S's as we can over this next minute. Smitty's going to shout out all the yeses. The more S's you get in the chat, that helps out the algorithm to push this show out to as many people as possible so we can have them be a part of our live show here today. And we certainly would love to see this chat popping. Kind of quiet right now. Kind of wake up a little bit. I know it's still early afternoon there on the West Coast, but that doesn't mean we can't have a good time here on Seahawks Today. So let's get the S's going. Smitty's going to shout out all the S's here over this next minute. Let's see how many we can get. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
And here we go. We got my guy Seth. We got Caleb. We got quality over quantity. We got Richard Godkin. We got tie-dye. We got Caleb, Seth, quality. Keep it going. Keep it going. We need some new names in there. Spamming those S's. Getting us rolling here on Seahawks Today Live on our Wednesday happy hour. Let's go, Caleb. Caleb, Richard, Seth, and quality are carrying the load. Who else is going to step up to the plate? David Clark's in here.
Faster. Pick up the pace.
S's. Come RV with me is spamming those S's.
Whoa.
Who is going to step up to the plate? Who is going to step up? Caleb and quality and Seth are still killing it. Deshaun Baker.
So far, Smitty's coming to that RV.
Brian Gomez. Yes, of course I will.
Halfway through. Keep going. Keep
Jared
going.
G involved in the chat. Deshaun Baker, Richard Godkin, the best Valdez. Caleb, Jared G, Bryce Thompson, D. Weller, Brian Gomez, tie-dye back in the fold. Let's go. You guys killing it.
10 seconds. Finish strong.
Finish strong. I want to see as many S's as I can in the chat, Bryce Thompson. Let's go. Brian Gomez, Jared G, D. Weller, the best Valdez, tie-dye, Caleb, quality, David Clark. You guys killed it. Let's go.
Is that the former Kansas and Oklahoma State guard, Bryce Thompson, in the chat?
Perhaps.
Potentially speaking. Who got the most in there? I saw a lot from tie-dye.
Quality over quantity was up there. Caleb Tyzan was consistent throughout the whole minute.
I think you might be having to visit that RV, Smitty.
RV was a spike. He came in the middle of the minute, started spamming him. Then he didn't come back until the end. I'm gonna give that one to Caleb Tyzan.
Have you ever stayed in an RV, Smitty?
I have not. I don't know. Have I ever even been in an RV? I have been in one. I have never stayed in one.
I love RVs. I would love to own an RV someday. Traveling, camping in an RV doesn't get much better than that, folks. That's America right there.
It would be sweet.
All right, if you're ready to start today's show, like the video. We're at 18 likes right now.
Let's get to 30.
Got to get to 30. Then we can start today's show and get this thing started here on this Wednesday. And I'll take a nice chug of my Miller when we get to 30 likes as well. Need 12 more, and then we'll get this show started. If you're glad to be hanging out here with us on Seahawks Today, here on this Wednesday, if you're excited about the next chapter of Seahawks football under Mike Macdonald, hit the like button. Hit that like button. We can get this show started, and that'll help push this show out to as many people as we can. 5 more likes away from 30 before we can get this thing started here and get rocking and rolling here on this Wednesday. Glad to have you with us. Jonesy Smitty here with you on this live edition of Seahawks Today. 3 more away from 30. 3 more, and then we'll get going. Quality over quantity says, if you're not liking the video, what are you doing? The best Valdez liked the video. Thank you for that, Valdez. Caleb says like the video. 2 more. 1 more. 1 more away from 30. And we will get started here. Caleb says, let's go Hawks. Hit that button. 1 more, and we'll get started. I'm not going any further until I get 1 more like and get this show started. Best Valdez says, come on, people. Let's go. All right. 1 more. 1 more. There we go. 30 likes. Cheers to the 12s out there. Let's have ourselves a day. Let's have a good Wednesday, everybody. Here is what's ahead on Seahawks Today. We'll have the latest news and rumors on Jamal Adams as well as DK Metcalf. Then we will get to updated free agent targets for Seattle after the NFL draft. Who could they pursue next? We'll have our NFL draft winners and losers for the Seahawks roster. And then we'll do a live Q&A mailbag as well. Use hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat to get on the mailbag portion of the show. $ next to the chat box if you want to contribute. And we'll see what questions we get coming up on today's show. So that is what's ahead. Without further ado, we shall begin with our news and rumors, talking about Jamal Adams and DK Metcalf coming up next right here on Seahawks Today. Glad to have you with us. Let's get going. Coming up on today's show, could Jamal Adams be headed to the arch-rival San Francisco 49ers? We have quite an update to get to on that front in just a bit. Also, DK Metcalf, trade talks about him and the Pittsburgh Steelers reuniting with Russell Wilson out east. How possible is that? We'll dive in and discuss that possibility coming up in just a matter of moments. I am the somewhat capable host, Tyler Jones, here with you. Thanks for joining us here on Seahawks Today. A little challenge for the 12s to begin today's show. The 49ers report with our friend/enemy, frenemy of the show, Chase Sr. They got 500 comments on a video last week, and Chase said there is no way that you guys could do that on Seahawks Today. And I said, the 12s will prove you wrong right here and right now. Can we beat their recent comment record? Can we get over 500 comments on today's video? Make it happen. Spam the chat. Get those F-Fran Sands in there, and we'll get started with today's show. According to a new report, the San Francisco 49ers are interested in signing former Seahawks safety Jamal Adams, and this news comes while the Seahawks have remained in contact with Jamal Adams about potentially bringing him back, but in a different role. Here's more from the Seattle Times. Sources said the San Francisco 49ers are one of a handful of teams who have kept in touch with Adams, so the Seahawks could have some competition for the former All-Pro safety, who is still just 28 years old. Any contract for Adams would obviously be nowhere near as costly as his previous deal, a 4-year pact signed in August 2021 that was due to pay him $72 million. As far as I'm concerned, if the San Francisco 49ers want Jamal Adams, take him. He is all yours. You can have him. Because the truth of the matter is this, folks. Some people aren't going to want to admit this, but this is the harsh, true reality. Jamal Adams is damaged goods. Okay? Jamal Adams was a liability in 2023. He's been extremely injury prone. And then on top of that, I have questions about Jamal Adams' character. We saw the rumors about him quitting on the team, not showing up to the Monday night game against the Philadelphia Eagles. We know about him calling out that New York Jets reporter and calling his wife ugly and all that. I just don't want anything to do with Jamal Adams. And if the San Francisco 49ers want to take on that problem, by all means, go ahead. He's yours. Now, John Schneider has talked about the possibility of bringing him back, but as an off-ball linebacker in the Seahawks defense, which would be different from the role he previously had in Seattle as a starting safety. Remember this from Schneider? This was just a few weeks ago. Maybe he's a linebacker. Maybe that better serves what he does well. When we acquired him, that's what we were thinking. He was a will linebacker. So, what do you guys think? I'm very curious. What would you rather see? Would you rather the Seahawks go ahead and pay the money to bring Jamal Adams back and move him to linebacker? Or would you rather see him go bye-bye and end up with the arch-rival San Francisco 49ers? What would you rather see? Would you rather him be a Seahawk or be the Niners' problem? Let me know in our pinned comment today. Type C for Seahawks, type SF for 49ers, or you can type F San Fran. That works too. Let me know in the comment section there. More to come on Jamal Adams and his potential fit with Seattle and how this could happen, as well as what's going on in San Francisco in just a moment. But first, we need your help. We are getting very, very close to 52,000 subscribers here on Seattle Seahawks today, as we are just over 100 away from reaching that next milestone, 114 to be exact. We're talking about your Seattle Seahawks each and every day on Seahawks Today with daily news and rumors, live shows on Wednesdays. Just because the draft is over doesn't mean we're going anywhere. We're talking rookie mini camps, OTAs, counting you down to training camp and more. We are your Seahawks offseason headquarters here on Seahawks Today. Subscribe now for free, youtube.com/Seahawks TV. Now, personally, if we're talking about Jamal Adams as a linebacker, I think Seattle's linebacker room is more than okay. I think it's just fine. Personally, I want to wipe my hands clean of Jamal Adams. I don't want anything to do with Jamal Adams. I am ready to move on and say sayonara with Jamal Adams as far as I'm concerned. I don't want him a part of this. I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And he's kind of left a lot to be desired over the last couple of years anyway. So for me, I'll let him go to San Francisco or go elsewhere. I'd rather roll with Terrell Dodson and Jerome Baker, see what I got in my rookie night out of UTEP, and let this thing roll as is. Because here's the bottom line. You look at Jamal Adams, even when he's been on the football field, he has been a liability in particular when it comes to coverage. And what has Mike Macdonald emphasized when it comes to the Seattle Seahawks in this new linebacker room, comparably speaking, to what we saw in the previous regime with Bobby Wagner and Jordan Brooks and others, is coverage linebackers. You got to cover well if you're going to be a linebacker in this Seahawks defense. Jamal Adams, I mean, he can't cover anything for that matter. Now, the 49ers into things, where this gets interesting is, they don't really need Jamal Adams either. The Niners had one of the best defenses in football. They've already invested in the linebacker position, so it doesn't really make sense for San Francisco. I have a theory here. You might call this a deep state conspiracy theory, but here's what I think is actually happening. I think the San Francisco 49ers are playing mind games with John Schneider and the Seahawks. I don't really think John Lynch is going to sign Jamal Adams and bring him to San Francisco either. I think they're trying to drive up the cost, trying to make Jamal Adams more expensive for Seattle if they want to bring him back. I don't really think that San Francisco is that interested. I would be surprised if he ends up with San Fran when it's all said and done, as far as I'm concerned. Jamal's sitting out there. He's talking to teams. But if it's San Fran, that would be a bit of a shocker. Jamal Adams, his numbers last year, nothing to write home about. 48 tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 2 pass breakups in 9 games played. And you can see the last 4 years has not even come close to sniffing a full 16-game campaign. Should the Seahawks sign Jamal Adams? What do you think? Type HY for hell yes, HN for hell no. Let us know in the comments section below if the Seahawks should sign Jamal Adams back or not. A lot of excitement about the Seahawks' newest rookie. That is Byron Murphy, who is now in Seattle. And we have his jerseys on sale now as well at chatsports.com/Murphy. We have the home jerseys. We also have the road whites and more. We got men's jerseys, women's jerseys, something for everybody. And when he gets his number and all that, we'll have the jersey with the number for you as well. So go ahead and get yours today. Chatsports.com/Murphy is where you can get your Byron Murphy jerseys. These things are going quick, folks. So jump on it now. Get yours today. Chatsports.com/Murphy. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. DK Metcalf, could he be on his way to Pittsburgh? According to a new report, the Steelers tried to trade for DK Metcalf during the NFL draft. Here's more from NFL reporter Benjamin Albright. The Steelers, they called about Ayuk and Sutton and have been rebuffed, at least with opening talks. Called about DK. I don't believe a trade would get done until after June 1st, if one got done at all. I know that the Steelers have been calling around half a dozen teams, and they've been rejected by 2 teams. Now, personally, I don't think that DK is getting traded. I don't see that happening. I don't think the Steelers are getting him. I don't think anyone else is getting DK Metcalf for that matter. I would be shocked if that were the case. And even if it does, it's not happening right now. I can tell you that much. With the way the contract situation works out for DK Metcalf, if the Seahawks were to move on, it doesn't make financial sense to do a trade at this time of year. This would have to be something that at the earliest would be June 1st. Field Goals explained more accordingly. Here's more from SB Nation saying the following. Dealing Metcalf after June 1 would save the Seahawks $17 million in cap space, with DK's contract set to expire at the end of 2025. If a trade happens before June 1, then they save $9.5 million, but incur $22.5 million in dead money over the final 2 seasons. Now, I think the best case scenario trade for the Seahawks, realistically speaking, if you are saying to yourselves, what could we absolutely, hope for in the best situation for a DK trade? You would be hoping to get a first and a fourth. Is that likely to happen? Probably not. That would be holding the Steelers at ransom if you were to get that type of deal. That's what you'd be hoping for. If you decide tomorrow you're moving on from DK, that's what you're believing that you would at least try to get. And to me, I'd rather just hang on to DK. I understand the frustrations. That DK gets called for more personal foul penalties than any player in the National Football League. And that DK has his issues where he lets his anger, lets his emotions get in the way sometimes. But I'm telling you, folks, there's still a whole lot more good than bad that comes with DK Metcalf. I still want him on my team, and I'm not trying to trade to get a first or fourth round pick as far as this goes. And let me explain more in just a minute, but let's ask you guys here real quick. I want to know, should the Seahawks trade DK Metcalf or not? What do you guys think of this possibility? Y for yes, N for no. Should Seattle trade DK or not? Weigh in the comments section and let us know if you think it's time to move on from the Seahawks wide receiver. Now, when it comes to DK Metcalf, you can see these statistics. These statistics have been very solid the last several seasons with over 1,100 yards, close to 17 yards of reception, 8 touchdowns last year. DK is right in the prime of his career. And for the Seahawks, I think you need to capitalize on his prime years right now. Look, if we're being frank, Tyler Lockett, this is probably his last season in Seattle, at least the way his contract is structured anyway. It doesn't seem likely that the Seahawks would bring him back next year. If I'm Seattle, I have to capitalize on getting the most out of my receiver room right now in this moment. JSN going into year 2. Tyler Lockett at the very end. DK in his prime. This is a chance to take advantage of what you got and get the most out of it. I'm keeping DK around. I'm not trading for that. The Seahawks are not rebuilding right now. They're trying to take the next step forward in being a playoff caliber team again. I'm not interested. Thanks for watching this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today. If you made it to the end of the video, spam real one in the comments section. We certainly would appreciate it. And we shall see you next time right here on Seattle Seahawks Today. All right. 1 down. 3 to go. Should the Seahawks trade DK Metcalf? I'm very adamant. It's a no from me.
A lot of no's in the chat, too.
A lot of no's. Everybody on the same page, seems like. Kevin says yes. Seth says no. Teagle says no. Come RV with me says no. Garrett says no. Smitty, where do you stand on this?
I mean, I don't think you're going to get good enough value for him. If you can get a first and a fourth, I would consider it, but...
And that's the absolute best case scenario.
That's by far the best case scenario for Seattle. I don't think he's getting anywhere close to that kind of value at this moment in time. So I would go with no.
Check it in. Let's see here. We got Roque saying no. Mudhorn saying no. Bryce Thompson saying no. Chad says hell no. The Best Valdez says crazy Kevin. I don't know what that means. Bryce says hell no. Best Valdez says no. Frank says no. If you would like some screen time, would like to get on today's show, here's how you can do so. $sign next to the chat box to contribute. You can send in a super chat. First-time super chatters, you get the Seahawks chant. $5 super chat, you get the old McDonald's song. $10 super chat, we'll take some shots. $20 super chat, get your name added to the Seahawks Today Football Hall of Fame. $50 will do a beer bong. And also, we are doing a raffle today, doing a duck race. If you guys send in a $10 Venmo at Tyler Jones Live, that will get you a raffle ticket for a 50-50 entry. You will take home half the money that comes into the pot today. The more entries we get, the more money we can give away. So I would love to see some folks get in to this raffle at Tyler Jones Live on Venmo. It's a Venmo exclusive thing to get into the duck race. I would love to see maybe Bryce Thompson or Frank or Chad or Richard, Best Valdez, get into this duck race. It's pretty cool. You get your own duck and it races on your behalf, see if you win the money or not. Up next, free agent targets. I got 5 different players the Seahawks could potentially sign. We're talking 5 different positions. And let me kind of preface this off the top and say that some of it is a little far off, if you will. Like, I would be surprised on some of these names. But, again, we're thinking best case scenario, kind of like that DK trade. A first and a fourth, like what would it really take? So we'll explain more. 5 different players, 5 different positions coming up in just a bit. I need to turn on my fan. I'm getting a little warm in here. But we'll do that next. There we go. Now I'm back. Now I got my fan on. Getting a little hot, but nonetheless, we're just about ready to go. Free agent targets coming up next. And then after that, we'll talk winners and losers from the NFL draft for your Seattle Seahawks. That is ahead. Thanks for being here with us on this Wednesday. Smitty, we all set? All right, let's get after it. Here we go. Tyler Jones here. Thanks for joining us here on Seahawks Today. With the NFL draft in the rearview mirror, we are talking free agent targets. What could John Schneider and Mike McDonald do to shore up the Seahawks roster before the season begins? I got 5 potential free agent targets at 5 different positions that we will discuss here on today's show. Before we do, folks, we are just 4 months away from Seahawks football. It's going to get here sooner than you know it, folks. If you're ready for the season to start, if you're excited about Seahawks football, like the video, and we'll get started with today's show. Smash that like button, show some love for your Hawks, and we'll get started here. All right, let's begin with Tyler Boyd. And I'll be honest, Tyler Boyd is not a guy that I did not think we would be talking about at this point, but here he is, still available. And the longer he stays available, the cheaper his cost gets. And I know what some of you may be thinking. The Seahawks don't need a receiver. And you're right about that. The Seahawks don't need a receiver. But if Tyler Boyd is still out there, he would be an upgrade from Jake Bobo. And you could still keep Bobo around as your number 5 receiver, which is probably more the role for Jake Bobo anyway. And you bring in Boyd, there would be no question who the best receiving core is in the National Football League. And if I all of a sudden have a receiving core with DK, Lockett, JSN, Tyler Boyd, and Jake Bobo, then I have an excuse to throw it 40-plus times a game. If the Seahawks want to get in a shootout with anybody in the National Football League, all of a sudden they can. And teams start to fear this offense. Not to mention you have some good running backs as well. If the Seahawks just say to themselves, you know what, we've made up our minds. We want to have the most explosive offense in the NFL. You know how you can do it? You can go get Tyler Boyd. That's how you can potentially do that if you want to go that route as far as that goes. Numbers from Tyler Boyd, as you can see, 67 catches this past season, 667 yards, over 10 yards a reception, and 2 touchdowns this year, played in all 17 games. The year prior had 58 catches, 762 yards, and 5 touchdowns. I would be surprised if he ends up in Seattle, but I wouldn't say it's impossible at this point. We'll see if Tyler Boyd's that guy or not. What do you guys think? Tyler Boyd? Should Seattle make a run at Tyler Boyd and get some depth at the receiver position? It'd be fun. I can tell you that much. What do you think? Y for yes, N for no, if Seattle should sign Tyler Boyd. Today's show was sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. You choose 2 or more players in any given category. Get the choice of more or less. Whether you are talking fantasy points, maybe it's rebounds in basketball, home runs in baseball, goals in hockey, all sorts of picks to choose from. You can even look ahead to the start of the NFL season. I got our guy DK Metcalf to have more than 1,205.5 receiving yards this season, and Lamar Jackson to have more than 3,600.5 passing yards as well. If I put $20 down on this and it hits, it's going to turn into $60 on Prize Picks, folks. Play along with me. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Promo code CLNS for a $100 deposit match on your first entry. That's promo code CLNS for that $100 deposit match. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Download Prize Picks today. Next up, a very familiar name to Seahawks fans, Rashad Penny. He had a visit with Seattle prior to the draft. The Seahawks did not draft a running back, and we've heard John Schneider say himself that they are interested. They are open to the possibility of bringing Rashad Penny back. Now, let's make things very clear. If the Seahawks are bringing Rashad Penny back, it is not to take back his role as RB1 in this Seahawks offense. Definitely not. If Rashad Penny does make a return, he's sitting behind Kenneth Walker, he's sitting behind Zach Charbonnet, and he's competing with Kenny McIntosh for playing time. And I know what some of you are going to say right away. But Tyler, we don't need Rashad Penny when we have these 3 running backs. And we want to see Kenny McIntosh get a chance to prove himself and all that. I get it. But let's be honest, folks. This is a harsh reality that's 100% true. The Seahawks have had terrible luck the past 5+ years when it comes to injuries at the running back position. I don't even have to go back that far. I could go back to training camp of last year when all 3 of the Seahawks running backs were hurt at the same time. So you got to have 4 good backs as far as I'm concerned. Rashad Penny is your number 3 or 4 back. I like that. I like the explosion, what he could potentially bring off the bench, have a little extra juice, if you will. I have no problem with that at all. For a very cheap contract, I'm all ears about the possibility of bringing Rashad Penny back. Now, a name I do not want to bring back, but he's being talked about, so we included him on this list, is Jamal Adams at the safety/linebacker position. In Seattle's case, it would be as a linebacker. Schneider has left the door open for Adams. He's talked about this openly, that he said, hey, we're discussing this possibility of bringing him back, but as an off-ball linebacker. That would be his potential role if he were to return, right? And you look at Jamal Adams, okay, I have my hesitations, and I think most people do. But if I'm asking him to come off the bench, right, if I'm asking him at a much cheaper price, then this could potentially work. But I have my concerns, and you have your concerns. We're talking about him struggling in coverage, right? And the Seahawks, what they've invested at the linebacker position is guys that can cover well. We have the concerns when it comes to the injury front. I have a whole lot more concerns than I do as far as comfort level when it comes to bringing back Jamal Adams. So that's where I'm sitting here. I don't feel great about this idea. Would it surprise me if they do it? Not at all. But we shall see. If you had to pick one to bring back, are you bringing back Rashad Penny or are you bringing back Jamal Adams? Let me know. Type P for Penny, type A for Jamal Adams. Which one would you bring back to the Seattle Seahawks? Let us know in the comment section below. We are your one-stop shop for all things Seattle Seahawks all off-season long, folks. The NFL draft is over, but we're not going anywhere here on Seahawks Today. We'll continue talking free agency and trades, daily news and rumors, live shows on Wednesdays, and more. We are the place to be. If you're a diehard Seahawks fan, you got to lock us in and help us reach our next milestone, 52,000 subscribers here on Seahawks Today. If the Seahawks make a move of any sorts, they sign any of these players we talk about, we're going to make a video as quick as we can and bring it to you here on the channel. Subscribe now. Stay up to date. Never miss a moment. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV. Next up, Emmanuel Ogbah at the edge rusher position. I've been a fan of Emmanuel Ogbah for a long time. I remember his days at Oklahoma State when he was a playmaker for the Cowboys. The Chiefs got him on a cheap contract, and he played a significant role in their first Super Bowl team in the Mahomes era. I've always been of the belief you can never have too many pass rushers. You're not asking Emmanuel Ogbah to come in and start. You're asking him to be a rotational piece. And I think he'd be a great fit for what the Seahawks want to do. What we've seen Mike McDonald do in his 2 years managing the Baltimore Ravens defense, he took these older, kind of forgotten about pass rushers that people had given up on, if you will, and their numbers just went off the charts. Jadeveon Clowney, case in point this past year. Kyle Van Noy. Before that, we saw several other guys do the same thing with what Mike McDonald worked with there over the years. You look at Emmanuel Ogbah. He's coming off a decent year, 5.5 sacks. He had 9 sacks back in 2021. I think this would be great for Seattle. Just have him come in, get after the quarterback, especially if there's some injuries or there. I'd feel more than comfortable with letting Emmanuel Ogbah hold things down on my defense. I think he'd be a good fit for what Seattle's looking for. Last on the list, Connor McGovern. Yes, Connor McGovern. Okay, here's the Seahawks situation, the center position. You are rolling with Olu Oluwatimi right now as your starting center if the season began today. And what I wonder, how confident are the Seahawks in Olu? And even then, how comfortable are you with the depth after that? Because Nick Harris, he might be more of a fullback than he is a center in all honesty. So could you go the safe route? Could you go an insurance policy with McGovern? Not to mention he can play some guard as well. I mean, that mustache isn't messing around, folks. Nobody's messing with that guy. Got plenty of experience, 91 career starts over 102 games. Not going to cost you a ton of money. If I'm looking to play it safe, I think McGovern can be a safe bet. I know his grades weren't great last year, but still only allowed 1 sack. He knows the assignment. He knows how to get the job done. This would be something I'm very open to. Who's the player the Seahawks should sign at NFL free agency? Weigh in. Give me a name or two that comes to mind that you'd like to see the Seahawks at. Thanks for joining us here on this edition of Seahawks Today. If you enjoyed today's show, like the video. We certainly appreciate it, and we'll see you next time. All right. We are 2 segments in, halfway home, as we have 2 more segments to go. One to sign. You going Rashad Penny or Jamal Adams? Smitty, for me, this is easy. I'm going with Rashad Penny. What player would you rather sign?
I would probably rather sign Penny, but I wouldn't be 100% opposed to bringing Adams back as that off-ball linebacker. Hopefully it humbles him a little bit. I wouldn't pay a dime more than the minimum for him, but I could see him being effective in pass rush situations, different blitz schemes next year. It wouldn't be I'm not closing the door on it, but I'd rather bring back Penny as well.
Well, and then with Penny, too, the role you're asking him, I think that there is a misconception when we've talked about this the last couple of weeks. Like, you're not asking him to be RB1 or even RB2. You're asking him to be a depth piece. And to me, that's just fine.
I will say, though, you spoke about how the Seahawks have dealt with tons of injuries at the RB spot. I mean, Rashad Penny was the catalyst for the Seahawks' long train of running back
You're
injuries
not
over the
wrong,
last couple of
but
years.
it's totally different when you're the fourth running back not getting the touches of that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree, but I don't even think that Rashad Penny's injuries came most of the time when he was on the field. It came in practice. It came in training camp. The guy never even saw the field for the first couple of years of his career.
He's not going to get those reps even in practice.
I guess, yeah, I guess you're right there. But
who would you rather have, Penny or Adams? Checking in the chat right now. Elona says Penny. Jeremiah says Penny. Brian says Penny. Josh says Penny. Almost unanimous.
Rashad Penny, you guys are quick to forget how Rashad Penny burned you so many times if he was drafted in the first round. Like, as a depth piece, I'm in. But I don't know, man. He just seems like another guy who's going to get hurt in camp and never see the field once. Seems like a waste of time to me.
All right, 2 more segments to go. We got post-draft winners and losers. First-time Super Chatters, you get the Seahawks chant. $5 Super Chat, get the old McDonald's song. $10 Super Chat, we'll take down some shots. $20 Super Chat, get your name out of the Seahawks Today Football Hall of Fame. $50 Super Chat, we'll do a beer bong. And still got room to get in the duck race as well, our 50-50 raffle at Tyler Jones Live on Venmo. $10 gets you 1 raffle ticket. And the more tickets you buy helps your chances to win the raffle. You'll get half the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow that we'll give away if you guys send in a Venmo there at Tyler Jones Live. Up next, winners and losers. Who stood out, whose lives changed, for better or for worse, after the NFL draft? We will discuss. That is next. And then we'll do a mailbag, hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat, to get on the mailbag portion of the show. So that is what's ahead here on this live edition of Seahawks Today. Let's go ahead and get going. Winners and losers time right now. In life, you are one of two things. You are either a winner or you are a loser. And on this edition of Seattle Seahawks Today, we will separate the best from the rest as we will react to who benefited and who got hurt on the Seahawks roster from the 2024 Seahawks draft picks. We'll discuss that coming up in just a matter of moments. Before we do, we're less than 100 subs away from 52K on Seahawks Today. We're not slowing down around here, folks. We're bringing you daily content like no one else is. No one is covering the Seattle Seahawks like we are here on the channel. Subscribe now. Never miss a moment. If the Seahawks make any moves of any sorts, we got you covered on the channel. Subscribe now, youtube.com/SeahawksTV for more Seahawks coverage. Let's begin with the winners list. And Sam Howell at the quarterback position, the biggest winner of the draft for the Seattle Seahawks. We heard the rumblings in Seattle about Michael Penix and Bo Nix and Spencer Rattler. Ultimately, Seattle did not draft a quarterback, and so that means that Geno will be QB1 and Sam Howell will be QB2. And it puts Sam Howell in the catbird seat, right? If something were to happen to Geno Smith, then Sam Howell's going to be right there with the opportunity to compete and potentially take that job away from Geno Smith. Whether Geno struggles, an injury, whatever it may be, Sam Howell will get the chance to prove himself. If you had a young quarterback, like let's just take Penix or Bo Nix as an example, there would be some big pressure on them to get the opportunity as opposed to Howell if something were to happen to Geno. Now Sam Howell knows without a doubt going into camp he is the guy. If something were to happen to Geno, that he's going to get his chance to prove himself. And he's essentially the Seahawks draft pick this year at the quarterback position. We've heard John Schneider and Mike McDonald sing his praises, and now he might get the chance to prove himself and potentially take this job away from Geno Smith if that opportunity were to arise. But at least he's not going to be leapfrogged for it by a rookie quarterback. Sam Howell, a big winner. Who was the biggest winner from the Seahawks draft? I think it's Sam Howell. Who do you think it is? Well, in the comment section, let us know who you believe that individual is. Biggest loser for me is Anthony Bradford at the offensive guard spot. Bradford was drafted last year by the Seahawks out of LSU, and it was kind of an up and down year for Anthony Bradford. There was times where when he got his opportunity, he kind of looked like a deer in headlights, right? And so the jury's still out on Anthony Bradford if he's going to be that guy or not. The belief was, going into the draft, that Anthony Bradford was in the driver's seat to be the Seahawks starting right guard. And right now, he still holds that position, but that's the point. For now, he holds that position, folks. Because Christian Haynes, who the Seahawks selected in the 3rd round, has all the potential, all the opportunity to win that job in training camp and ultimately be the Seahawks starting right guard. If I were to put betting odds on this right now, I would think that Haynes is more likely to start week 1 than Anthony Bradford is at the moment. Obviously, he's going to have to earn it, but for now, Anthony Bradford, it's not looking great for him to potentially be that starter with Christian Haynes right there waiting in the wings to try to get that job. Another winner, Olu Oluwatimi, the Seahawks center, second-year player out of Michigan. We saw him a limited amount in 2023 as Evan Brown was the primary starter. And the coaching staff last year loved Olu Oluwatimi. We heard nothing but positive things about him in the lead-up to the 2023 season. And Evan Brown gone. The idea was that Olu would take over that job. And I know the Seahawks had some discussions with other options at the center position. There was a lot of talk about Jackson Powers-Johnson or drafting another center of sorts. But ultimately, the Seahawks don't do so. They're going to roll with Olu, it would seem. Even with bringing Nick Harris in from the Cleveland Browns, all signs point to that Olu is ahead of Nick Harris on that depth chart, that he's in the driver's seat to get that job. So for the Seahawks not to get another center, to show confidence in Olu, big for him. If all goes according to plan, he should start week 1 for the Seahawks. Another loser on this list, Mike Jackson. Mike Jackson, it has been quite the roller coaster for him in Seattle. We've seen him play great, right? That year in 2022, when he was the starting outside corner, opposite of what we saw from Rick Woolen, I mean, it was a decent season for Mike Jackson, right? And then last offseason, he fell out of good graces with Pete Carroll and the defensive staff. Ended up getting benched, losing his job. Trey Brown took over, and then Mike Jackson later on got his job back, and it was all kind of a revolving door of sorts, right? Well, now the Seahawks draft not 1, but 2 corners this year, right? The fantastic Auburn duo. And with Trey Brown still sitting there, it's going to be very competitive. Nothing is a given of who is going to start. And the thing about Mike Jackson, why we have him as the first loser at the cornerback position, there's one more loser to get to later. Here's the difference with him. Look at the primary names you're seeing on your screen. The Rick Woolens, the Devin Witherspoons, Pritchett, Brown, the list goes on, right? James. Those are guys that are all drafted by the Seahawks. Those are guys that John Schneider and company have invested in. There's not the investment in Mike Jackson. They like Mike Jackson. I mean, he's still here after he could have been caught 2 years ago, right? But there's not the long-term investment there of thinking that he is part of the plans for the Seahawks down the road. He might be the easiest to move on from. So that's where it can be a little nervous for Mike Jackson is how much longer is he going to be here? That remains to be seen, but the clock is ticking. Who was the biggest loser from the draft for the Seattle Seahawks? Is it Mike Jackson? Is it Anthony Bradford? Is it somebody else? Weigh in the comment section and let us know what you think. A big winner for the Seahawks was Byron Murphy, their first-round selection out of the University of Texas. Excited to see what he's going to do for many years to come. And now is a great time to get Byron Murphy jerseys on sale at chatsports.com/Murphy. Whether it's the home jersey, the road jersey, men's, women's, all sorts of different selections and colors to choose from. You can get your Byron Murphy jerseys now. These things are hot, folks. Get yours at chatsports.com/Murphy. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. That's chatsports.com/Murphy. Back to the winners list. Abraham Lucas makes the winners list. And there was a lot of talk this offseason about Abraham Lucas coming off a disappointing season where he was very injured, right? Dealt with that lingering knee issue that just simply wouldn't go away. And I have sat here and I've told you before, and I stand by this. that I'm still concerned, very concerned, about Abraham Lucas' status going forward, how that knee is going to hold up. But apparently, the Seahawks have liked what they've seen. They didn't draft another offensive tackle. We haven't heard anything about Abe Lucas having to move to guard. They, quite frankly, didn't sign a big-time tackle. I know they signed George Fant, but George Fant's not starting over Abraham Lucas. By all indications, if everything goes according to plan, Abraham Lucas is still going to be your starting right tackle. I mean, we even talked that there was potential trade rumors out there. He's still here. Hasn't gone away. He's still got his job. Hopefully that knee's okay. But Abraham Lucas right now, a big winner. Also on the losers list, Jarran Reed. Jarran Reed had a good start to 2023, but wasn't the same player that he was in the first 4 weeks. We saw him end up with a decent stat line, 54 tackles, 7 sacks, 7 tackles for loss, 1 forced fumble, and 1 fumble recovery. But now you bring in Byron Murphy, and Byron Murphy is going to take playing time away from Jarran Reed. Here's what we believe is the starting depth chart right now, where Jarran Reed is back to the bench as a rotational player. Now, maybe he beats out Draymond Jones and moves back to defensive end, whatever it may be. But at the very least, Jarran Reed went from a guaranteed starting spot as the anchor of this defensive line to now having to compete just to even see playing time after having 7 sacks last season. So not great for Jarran Reed with the arrival of Byron Murphy, but in the end, the Seahawks benefit from it because they get the depth they were looking for. Another winner will go Zach Charbonnet. The Seahawks, how many drafts in a row has it been now that they drafted running backs? That finally came to an end this year. Thank goodness it came to an end, by the way. And Zach Charbonnet, who I thought did not get enough touches last year. I would have liked to seen him more involved in that Seahawks offense. Even when Kenneth Walker went down, I thought they should have used Zach Charbonnet more than they should have. Charbonnet knows that his time is here. His time will come. And that he doesn't have anybody waiting in the wings to take carries away from him, that he is the number 2 back for the Seattle Seahawks. That is not changing. Kenny McIntosh isn't going to pass him up. George Holani, the UDFA from Boise State, is not going to pass him up. Zach Charbonnet is in a very good spot to be heavily involved in this Seahawks offense. And we've gone 2 straight years now where Kenneth Walker's had injuries. So Zach Charbonnet, if something happens, is going to be there right ready to go if he gets that chance. Watch out for Zach Charbonnet to have a big sophomore campaign. Another loser on this list, Trey Brown. Similar to the same reasons as Mike Jackson. But think about this with Trey Brown. One thing we've talked about on the channel over the last several weeks is that if there was a defensive player that was most likely to get traded, Trey Brown would probably be that guy because he's shown starting potential. He's dealt with a lot of injuries, right? You know, he missed almost an entire season about a year or 2 ago. And with that starting potential, if a team is short at a corner spot and needs something, Trey Brown's going to be the guy they call. And with the Seahawks bringing in other guys like Pritchett and whatnot, they might not be so sold on Trey Brown going forward here. I think that there's more sold on him than they are Mike Jackson, but now he becomes probably the most tradable asset you have because he's still relatively young. He's on a cheap contract, and he's got starting experience. Not looking good for Trey Brown there. Should the Seahawks trade Trey Brown? Try to get something out of him while they can right now. What do you think? Why for yes and for no? Way in the comment section. Let us know what you think. Our final winner on the winners list is Noah Fant at the tight end position. The Seahawks paid Noah Fant a lot of money this past offseason with Colby Parkinson gone, Will Dissly gone. And there was a lot of discussion about the Seahawks potentially drafting a tight end. Brock Bowers did not fall to them like many had hoped. They did not go get Sanders. It wasn't what the Seahawks had hoped for at the tight end position, right? And then you see what they ultimately did. They did end up drafting a tight end, but a more of a blocking tight end, right? And then Westover, who they grabbed up from Washington as UDFA, I mean, he's still a UDFA, so there's still, work to be done, right, as far as how realistic his chances are to get on the field. But no question about it, Noah Fant is your number one receiving threat. He is the guy for the Seahawks that's going to lead the way at that tight end position. It's his job. He's not going to be having to split like he was before with Parkinson and Disley. He is, without question, the ringleader of that tight end room. Last one is Draymond Jones. Similar reasons to Jaron Reed, with the arrival of Byron Murphy, kind of makes everything in flux. And Draymond Jones is already coming off a disappointing season where he was paid all that money and really underperformed with only 4.5 sacks last year. His role going to be reduced to some extent, whether he starts or whether he's a rotational piece. Pressure's on Draymond Jones to put it together. It's put up or shut up time after having a down year last year. We need more out of Draymond Jones. Simple as that. He can't play like he did last year if he wants to see significant playing time with Seattle here. So there you have it. That's our winners and losers for the NFL Draft for your Seattle Seahawks. Continuing Seahawks coverage here on the channel throughout the entire offseason. Lock us in. Help us reach our next milestone. Getting so close to 52,000 subscribers. Need your help to get there. And if the Seahawks make any more moves, we're going to bring it to you and react to it here on the channel. Subscribe now for free. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV for daily Seattle Seahawks coverage here on the channel. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We will see you next time. All right, one more segment to go as we have a Q&A mailbag next. $10 Venmo from Jackson. We'll throw that up in a second. Jackson Jones. Who was the biggest winner from the Seahawks draft? Give me a name that comes to mind. I've gone through the full list. Now let me know what you guys think. Who was the Seahawks' biggest winner from the draft? Get your answers in. Let us know. And we get our Q&A mailbag coming up in just a bit. Hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat to get on the mailbag portion of the show. Let's see. What do you guys think? Who was the biggest winner? I'm seeing Sam Howell. Anti says Gino. What else? Let us know. Who was the biggest winner from the Seahawks draft? Chime in the comments section. Tell me what you think. Jackson Jones. I think he's a first-timer, too. We got a $10 Venmo from Jackson Jones. Jackson is going to be in the duck race, so we got at least one entry. But I want to get some more entries in there. $10 at Tyler Jones Live to be a part of the duck race. Jackson Jones, Smitty, I believe that's his first time.
Do we know that he might have another? Does he have a YouTube name potentially that a moniker that he goes by? That
Jackson, are you in the chat? If you are, let me know and what your username is. But you're at very least a first-time Venmo anyway. So I think we owe him the Seahawks chant.
Let's give it to him. For Jackson, C!
Hawks!
C!
Hawks!
C!
Hawks! Let's go! Much appreciated, Jackson. Jackson, you are in. Who wants to join Jackson and get in the duck race? At Tyler Jones Live for a 50-50 raffle ticket. I want to see if we can get some more competition to get involved in this.
What we really need right now are questions to get on the show.
Yes.
Just like Chino used, it's not really a question, so we can't use that. But Chino, if you have a question, use hashtag Seahawks.
Hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat to get on the mailbag portion of the show where we will answer your questions. I'm not seeing hardly any questions. So
we don't have any, really.
I need Wayne, get some questions in. Ilona, get some questions in. I see Peter's got a question in. Auntie, Garrett, Sosa, Wayne, get your questions in. I want to answer them here in the mailbag.
Any questions about the Seahawks draft, Seahawks offseason, any potential trade targets, free agent targets? What do you guys want to know? We can answer it for you on the next segment of today's show. Use hashtag Seahawks to get on.
There you have it. That's how you can get on the mailbag portion of the show. Need your questions in.
Like that, Peter. Like that, Peter.
Yeah, great question there, Peter. We'll definitely answer that.
Peter, you got to spell Seahawks right, though, my friend. Copy-paste that. Just
no.
Put an A in Seahawks.
Seth's got a question.
Seth, like that question.
Good question, Seth. Peter, yes, good question, but you missed the A there. So copy-paste that, add that A to Seahawks, and we'll get it on the mailbag.
The first A. You got the second A.
Yes. Chino, we see your question.
He's talking about the cornerbacks from Auburn.
Yes.
Need about three more questions. Can you guys get it done? I
Three
gotta
more.
go. I gotta go soon. I gotta get out of here.
How you feeling about your Celtics tonight?
They're closing it out. It's the easy ass game. We're good. The series is over.
Let's go Heat.
No.
Let's extend this series.
Let's not and say we did.
Let's go 7 games.
Nope.
Let's make Smitty and Allie work a 7-game series first round.
Nope. Don't plan on doing that.
I think it'd be great for the company, great for business.
Would be great for me. Need my Celtics to close it out tonight. Let's get some more questions in here. Richard Godkin.
We know Smitty loves that Heat culture.
Nope, hate it. They love to injure players. I like that question from Richard.
Teddy, good question. Maybe at the very end, yeah. Need about 2 more?
Yeah, about 2 more questions. Come on, I know you guys got it in you. What do you guys want to know about the Seahawks? Let's get it going.
Let us know. Hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat. 2 more questions, and then we will start this mailbag portion of the show.
We know you guys got it in you.
So stay tuned for that. 2 more. Who else has got a question? I haven't seen a question from Wayne yet. I know Wayne's got some stuff on his mind.
Come on, Wayne.
Ilona, I know you got some questions in there. Send them my way. Send them away. And if you think of more questions as we're going through the
You
mailbag,
can always put it on later.
you guys can do that as well. If you got some follow-up questions or some topic we're talking about.
That always occurs. Whenever we start the videos, when you guys actually start asking questions. So
Imagine that. Hashtag Seahawks or Super Chat. Get your questions in for the mailbag. There we go. Trey's got one.
I like that, Trey.
One more, and then we'll get started. And then another from Jackson. So there we go. Poll question right now. Which team would you rather Jamal Adams play for? 54% of you saying Seahawks, 46% saying 49ers there. All right, mailbag time. Let's go ahead and get after it with this live edition of Seahawks Today, answering your questions.
My
Richard,
bad, Richard. It's Gookin.
Gookin?
My bad.
I don't remember saying Richard's last name.
No, I've been saying it.
Gookin. Okay.
Or Gookin or yeah, it's probably Gookin.
Is it Gookin or Gookin?
Let us know.
I'll say this, how are we supposed to know that?
That's true. We can't know everybody's name. I also don't have the best vision in the world, so I look at your name from afar. It looks like Godkin from afar. My bad, though.
Aren't you legally blind, Smitty?
No, I'm not legally blind. I can drive a vehicle. I can do everything that normal people can do. I just don't have the best vision. I gotta wear corrective lenses.
Okay. Not legally blind. Legally blonde, but not legally blind.
That's right.
All right. Mailbag time. Let's get after it here on Seahawks Today. Final segment. Let's roll. You are watching Seahawks Today, powered by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. It is mailbag time. You got questions, I got answers. This comes from our live show that we do on Wednesday afternoons where people super chat us. They use the hashtag Seahawks, and we answer their questions in real time. We will open up the mailbag here in just a moment. Before we do, want to make sure not only you're subscribed to Seahawks Today, but also that you have your noties turned on as well, that you're a part of the Noti gang. Those are the folks that are the first to know when we have new content here on the channel. Subscribe, turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. If the Seahawks make a move, we're going to make a video as quick as we can and talk about it here on the channel. That way the Noti Gang is the first to know exactly what's going on. Subscribe now for free. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. We'll get started with today's show. The Smitty Committee checks in. Great question from the Smitty Committee. Saw Gino was working out with Antonio Brown. Any chance we sign AB? Also, will Smitty be working for CTESPN in his next job? Hashtag Seahawks. All right, Smitty Committee. The answer, no. Antonio Brown is not coming to Seattle. There is truth to this, that Gino was working out with Antonio Brown this past week. But I would not make anything of it. Zay Flowers was there as well. Does that mean that Zay Flowers is coming to Seattle on top of that? Of course not. Ravens aren't moving on from him. Antonio Brown will never play another down in the National Football League ever again. He is a crazy man, a nut job. It ain't happening. Will Smitty be working for CTESPN? I hope not. I hope Smitty stays around here. CTESPN, give him credit where credit's due. Antonio Brown's media company, if you will. They've been breaking some stories. They've been doing a good job. It's been very entertaining, CTESPN. All the best to them, but to my knowledge, Smitty's not going anywhere. He's not going to CTESPN, but thanks for the question. Should the Seahawks sign Antonio Brown? Pat, Picks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS for $100 deposit match on your first entry. They have more than 1,025.5 receiving yards this season. Lamar Jackson to have more than 3,600.5 passing yards this season. If both those hit and I put $100 in Prize Picks, we're talking about making some serious cash here, folks. I mean, what are you waiting for? Play along with me. I could turn 20 into 60 just like that with Prize Picks, folks. PrizePicks.com/CLNS, promo code CLNS for $100 deposit match. The link is in the comments and description of today's video. Legion of Boom forever. Any chance the Seahawks trade Draymond Jones after drafting Byron Murphy? It's interesting, right? Draymond Jones coming off a down year. A lot of hype and excitement about Byron Murphy. I think Byron Murphy's got the potential to one day be an all-pro at his position. I love the pick of Byron Murphy. But as far as Draymond Jones goes, I don't know why anyone would want to take on that contract. He is greatly overpaid. If the Seahawks had to do it over again and go back to last free agency, they would have never paid that money to Draymond Jones for the lack thereof of production that he gave the Seahawks defense last year. So I think that John Schneider is going to be graceful, and he's going to say to Draymond Jones, we are giving you one more chance, and one more chance only, to get this right and to play at a high level and to continue your career here in Seattle. If not, then they'll move on after next year and look at other options. But right now, Draymond Jones isn't going anywhere. In fact, I actually like where the Seahawks team line kind of stacks up right now. With him, Jaron Reed, Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, all of a sudden you got a nice team line group here. Draymond Jones, with the talent around him, no excuses. No ifs, ands, or buts. He should have a nice bounce back year this year, I would hope. Now, let's ask you, should the Seahawks trade Draymond Jones? Why for yes, in for no, weigh in. Let us know if you think it is time to move on from the Seahawks pass rusher. Richard writes in, do you think Sam Howell has that dog in him to take the job from Geno Smith and be the QB1? No, I don't. I always like when we talk about having that dog in you, though, right? I'll say this. Sam Howell, what would it take, essentially? He's not going to win the job in training camp. It's not an open competition, for one. But two, the way I look at it is that Sam Howell, it's going to have to be a situation where Geno either struggles or gets hurt, and then he gets his opportunity, and then he's going to have to play so well that they don't take it away from him and go back to Geno. I just don't see all those things unfolding here. I think there's a very good chance Geno doesn't play all 17 games. He got hurt last year, not once but twice. But I would be surprised if Sam Howell played well enough to keep that job in Seattle. But thanks for the question, Richard. Seth writes in, what's your thoughts on Tyrice Knight? We got a lot of criticism, but he did lead all of FBS players in solo tackles. Could have a lot of potential. Okay, so when it comes to Knight, first off, leading the country in tackles is one of the most pointless stats you can lead any category. Maybe the most pointless stat to lead in football, okay, when it comes to tackles, right? Every linebacker should be able to tackle well. That shouldn't be an issue for every linebacker out there. But still, nonetheless, led the nation in tackles, was very good in Conference USA, first-team selection. I thought it was a reach to get him when they did in the 4th round, but I like the potential project that he takes on. He's a superb athlete. He's got the athleticism. He's not being asked to start. He's being asked to replace Devin Bush. That's fine with me. Let's see what he can do and kind of go from there. I would not be surprised if next season we're talking about Knight as one of the Seahawks starting linebackers. Trey writes, do you think any corners will be moving to safety type position due to McDonald running the defense? It's kind of already happened. Kobe Bryant. I don't think Kobe Bryant's moving back to corner. I think he's a safety full-time, long-term now going forward. That's the only one I see with that move there. And I think the Seahawks are going to give some 3 high safety looks with this Mike McDonald defense, kind of like what we saw last year with the Ravens, what they did with Kyle Hamilton and Geno Stone and Marcus Williams. I think that Kobe Bryant is going to play that role of sorts, kind of like Kyle Hamilton did in that sense. So Kobe Bryant, it's already happened. He's not moving back. I think he's there to stay at the safety spot, and we'll see what he can do. Peter writes in, how do you feel about this current Seahawks roster? And what changes/additions would you make to make this team better? I feel pretty good. I think this roster's headed in the right direction. I think this is a better team than what the Seahawks had last year. Last year, the Seahawks had a 9-8 team that underachieved. Mike McDonald was hired, and the big reason why Pete Carroll's gone was because of the underachievement. It's to get this team to play to their potential, right? And so if you have a better roster and you play to your potential next year, then there's very good reason to be optimistic about this group. Now, Geno's not your long-term solution. Eventually, you're going to need to find a franchise quarterback. It would be nice if you had a solid second tight end next to Noah Fant. And there are some questions on the offensive line, but overall, it's a job well done by Schneider and McDonald with what they've had to work with this roster with limited cap space this offseason. Teddy G writes, how do you think Mike McDonald orders his coffee? Well, I'll say this. I am a black coffee guy myself. I like my coffee dark as hell, be as bold and as strong as possible, and maybe an espresso shot or two to begin the morning. I think creamer is for the weak. You don't need milk. You don't need sugar. Drink your coffee like a man. Drink it black, right? Mike McDonald is a tough son of a bitch, okay? Mike McDonald, I would not want to get a fight with Mike McDonald. I am of the belief, just with his mindset and his attitude, he's definitely got to be a black coffee drinker. He separates the men from the boys, right? Mike McDonald's a tough dude. Subscribe now to Seahawks Day, continuing Seahawks coverage all off season long. I'm Tyler Jones. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time. All right. So, should the Seahawks trade Draymond Jones? Weifer, yes. In for no. Richard says no. Sosa says yes. What do you guys think? Let us know. I only had one entry for the duck race. I'll wait 2 minutes. If I get another, then we'll do a duck race. If we get some more entries. If not, then we'll send your money back to you, Jackson. We'll send it back to you if we don't get more. But 2 minutes. If we get more entries at Tyler Jones Live, then we'll stay live and we'll do a duck race, keep the show going for a bit. Also, if you want some screen time, want to party with us, you can send in a super chat as well at Tyler Jones Live. But 2 minutes on the clock. If we get another Venmo, then we'll do a duck race and we'll make it happen. Otherwise, Jackson, I'll send your $10 right back to you. So, Jackson, he said keep it. Okay. No, Jackson, we want to take care of you. Let's see. Checking in on the chat. What do you think, Smitty? What would you do with Draymond Jones? I think he comes back at least one more year.
Yeah, he's playing the whole year. I don't think there's any reason to trade him. Nobody's going to trade for him with that contract, and you got to give him one more shot to have a bounce-back season with more depth in that defensive line.
Batman fan points out Levi Bell got waived. I want to make a big deal about that, Smitty, because I would guess that they'll probably bring him right back with training camp.
He'll be back eventually.
They always come back. Antonio Brown, that was bizarre.
I'm in.
I love his whole CT ESPN thing.
He's been killing it. They've gotten some legit scoops.
Giving Schefter a run for his money. Peter says he'll trade Draymond Jones for Tyler Jones. Okay. I don't know if you want me playing edge rusher. That might not end well. We're just about to wrap up today's show. Thanks for being here with us, everybody. A lot of fun, as always. Smitty's got to run. What time are you guys getting started on Celtics tonight?
6 p.m. Central, so 4 p.m. Pacific.
So if you want to hang out with Smitty and friend of the show, Allie Barefoot, they'll be doing coverage of the Celtics and Heat game tonight over on our Celtics channel. So you can hang out with Smitty and company there. They'll have a lot of fun with that. So check that out. We will sign off. More coverage on Seahawks today throughout the week. I am off to Kansas City this weekend. My sister is graduating college, so big congrats to her. So, but even while I'm gone, just for a few days, we'll still have content every day on the channel, so stay tuned for that. We will sign off. For Tyler Smith, I'm Tyler Jones. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you next time right here on Seahawks Today.